This summer, we're inviting you for a very special double feature book study, diving into Small Groups, Big Results by Dr. Julia Lindsay and Rock Your Literacy Block by Lindsay Kemeny. Over 8 weeks, we'll dive into practical research-aligned strategies to help you build a more intentional literacy block, strengthen your small groups, maximize instructional time, and head into back-to-school season with a little more pep in your step. You'll get live weekly discussions, recordings, planning supports, and a community of passionate educators learning alongside of you. If you're ready for practical implementation and not just theory, come join us this summer. It's the summer of the Lindsays. Head to the link in the show notes to save your spot. You're listening to episode 103 of Literacy in Color. Welcome to the Literacy in Color podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Sullivan, a science of reading advocate with over a decade of experience as a reading interventionist and literacy coach. I'm passionate about making evidence-based instruction both effective and engaging. If you're interested in captivating our learners on reading fluently and understanding language, or as I like to call it, keeping it colorful, then you've found the right place. Each week, we'll explore intriguing lit bits and practical strategies around the science of reading and structured literacy to help you be colorful and teach colorfully. Are you ready to bring literacy to life? Let's color outside the lines and make an impact together. Today's episode is for any teacher or even parent who has ever looked at a child's writing and thought, oh gosh, they keep mixing up their B's and D's. Should I be worried? Maybe you've tried a few strategies, like with the letter B, the bat comes before the ball, or with the letter D, the doorknob comes before the door. Perhaps you've even talked about bellies or diapers. I know you've all seen the posters. And some of these tricks can help, but of course, some may not stick for all of our kiddos. So today, I want to take a step back and explain why letter reversals happen in the first place, because once you understand what's happening inside the brain, the strategies also make much more sense. And then I'm going to walk you through my 5 favorite ways to teach B and D. So first, let's clear up one really important misconception. Letter reversals are normal, and actually they're incredibly common. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say they're an expected part of early literacy development. Now, that doesn't mean we ignore them. It doesn't mean we say, oh, they'll just grow out of it. We absolutely teach through them, but I think teachers can feel a little less anxious when they understand why they're happening. So if you're new here, our brains were never designed to read. Reading is a relatively new invention in human history, and our brains were originally built to recognize objects, process visual information. Imagine if I walked into my kitchen right now and saw one of my chairs upside down. I'd still call it a chair. I wouldn't suddenly think, oh, well, that's not a chair anymore. In fact, it could be on its side, spun around, upside down on the counter, and at the end of the day, a chair is a chair is a chair. Our brains are incredibly good at recognizing objects, regardless of their orientation, and that's actually incredibly efficient. So neuroscientists call this mirror invariance. Our brains recognize objects regardless of how they're turned. And that's really helpful until we start learning our letters, because suddenly the orientation really matters. So think about it. The lowercase b, d, p, and q are all essentially the same shapes. The only thing that changes is the direction. And my millennial self, I always think about that Missy Elliott song, Work It. So I put my letter down, flip it, and reverse it. And it actually also reminds me of my younger daughter at the moment. So she's 3 years old right now. And almost every morning she'll put her shoes on the wrong feet. And I laugh that she has a 50-50 chance every morning, and somehow she still manages to get them backwards more often than not. We just started, though, a sticker strategy, and that seems to help a lot. But I mean, she knows they're her shoes. She recognizes them immediately, but she doesn't know left from right. Figuring out which shoe goes on which foot, that's a completely different skill. She's still learning that orientation matters in that case. And letters are very similar. Children are quickly learning that these symbols are letters, and the harder part is learning that the direction they're facing completely can change their identity. So when children are learning to read, they're actually teaching their brains, they're rewiring their brains to do something that feels really unnatural. They're teaching their brains to stop treating those letters as the same object and to start paying attention to that orientation, how they're formed, and even what they represent within our alphabetic writing system. So if you're seeing reversals, take a deep breath. They're expected. And for many children, they're going to resolve naturally with development plus explicit instruction and practice. And I do want to emphasize the explicit part. So we're not going to wait. We're going to teach. And you may be wondering, okay, but when do children usually outgrow this? So for many of our students, letter reversals become less frequent throughout the primary grades as they receive consistent reading, writing, and handwriting instruction. Now, if you're continuing to see reversals past the second grade into third grade, and they're occurring alongside significant reading and spelling difficulties, that may warrant a closer look. But the presence of reversals alone is not a sign of dyslexia. So that's one myth that we can bust today. Does forming your skill-based groups feel a little mysterious? You have the screening data, but you're still asking, okay, how do I use this to move students forward? A good friend of the podcast, Dr. Stephanie Stoller, runs the Reading Science Academy, and she created an exclusive grouping resource bundle free for Literacy in Color listeners. You'll get Stephanie's cheat sheets for grouping students at the beginning, middle, and end of the year, plus a video that walks you through a real classroom example. I'll always proclaim that I myself am a proud Reading Science Academy member for life, and I can genuinely say that the quality of the resources and professional learning is top-notch. The Facebook community is also one of the most supportive spaces I've experienced. Reading Science Academy is honestly one of the first places I go whenever I have a question about literacy instruction or assessment. So go to readingscienceacademy.com/color to get your free grouping resource bundle today. So how do we address this? Let's now talk about what we can do to help remedy those pesky little BD reversals. So I'm going to share 5 strategies. And just as a precaution, here's my advice. Don't teach all 5 at once. Pick one and be incredibly consistent. If it works for that child, great. And if not, then you have something else waiting in your teacher toolkit. So strategy number 1, this is my favorite, and honestly the one I'd start with every single time. So this is what we can call the B hand. We can have students hold up their left hand with a thumbs up. So their thumb becomes the tall line and their fingers become that circle or belly, and it makes a lowercase b. And one reason I love this is because children always have their hands with them. They don't need a poster. They don't need a desk helper or an anchor chart. Their reminder travels with them wherever they go. Now, you might ask, what if they don't know left from right? What if they don't know how to select their B hand, right? So here's the little trick. If they write W-R-I-T-E with their right R-I-G-H-T hand, then their B hand is the hand that's not doing the writing. But if they're a lefty, if they write with their left hand, their writing hand is going to be their B hand. So they should hold that information in their brains. I've even had teachers use a tiny little bumblebee sticker or even a little temporary tattoo of a bumblebee, and they put it on their student's B hand. And if you love a good pun like me, I think that is so clever because bee hand, get it, bumblebee? At the end of the day, it's not something they'll need forever. It's just a scaffold while they're learning which hand they can rely on as their bee hand. Number 2 on my list is probably the least talked about, but it's one of my favorites too because it connects speech to handwriting. So it's all about articulation. We're going to think about how we produce the sounds. So when we say the sound of b, our lips start in a closed position. So we can tell our students, pretend you're drawing that straight line between your closed lips. We're going to do our straight line down first and then push up and circle forward. Now we can compare that to the sound that D represents. D. Your mouth starts in an open position. The tongue is touching that ridge behind your teeth and it's open. So open mouth, I'm going to circle back first and then make our tall line. It's a completely different motor plan. And when we can connect speech with reading and handwriting together, it can be a really powerful strategy because our brains love making all those connections. Strategy number 3 is short and sweet, but tried and true. In this one, we're looking at our uppercase pair. So if a child already knows how to write an uppercase B, we use that as a starting point. So we write that capital letter B, and now erase the top bump. What's left? A lowercase b. Ta-da! It's simple, right? And sometimes the simplest tricks are the ones that stick. The 4th strategy leans on letter sequencing. So a prerequisite to this strategy is being able to recite the alphabet. We can have students hold both hands out in front of them with 2 thumbs up and then bring their knuckles together so their thumbs are facing each other. And now we're going to use our arms as our alphabet line. So starting at the left wrist, we're going to tap our left wrist, our left thumb, this middle point in between our hands, our right thumb, and our right wrist. And as you tap those points, we're going to say A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E. Which one is B? They're going to lift up their left hand. Where do we have the D? Lift up their right hand. Practice again. A, B, C, D, E. You'll notice that the B lands on the left, the D hand's on the right. It's also reinforcing that B hand. And I like this strategy too because it ties together alphabet knowledge with letter formation. So finally, the 5th strategy I'll share with you today is probably one you've seen hanging in elementary classrooms all over. I think it's probably one of the most popular strategies out there. And this one also starts with our 2 thumbs up in that same position, just like our last strategy. But instead of using the alphabet, we're going to use a simple phrase. So we're going to hold up both thumbs with your hands together, and we can say, make your bed. Your left hand makes the B. Your right hand makes a D. So the B and the D are quite literally your headboard and your footboard of your bed. Now, this one comes with an extension because if we rotate both hands so that our thumbs are pointing down, suddenly B becomes a P and D becomes a Q. So we can say, make your bed, flip pretty quickly. Make your bed pretty quickly. We have BD, PQ. And I think kids love this one because it's a little silly, it's easy to remember, and sometimes that's exactly what a child needs, a quick visual cue they can use independently while they're still building that automaticity. And one thing I do want to reiterate and encourage, again, is just choosing one strategy and using that consistently. So well-intentioned teachers, you're hoping for a quick fix, and maybe you think, oh man, I think I'm going to try to teach the bed and the ABCD hands and the articulation clue and the B hand all in the same week. And that's just too many things to remember, right? So we're going to pick one strategy, stick with it for some time. Let them practice. It's not the strategy in and of itself that's magic. It's really the practice that comes along with a strategy that makes sense to that student. And before we wrap up, I do want to mention there are several other mnemonics out there, like the bat in the ball and the doorknob in the door. Sometimes I see a donut or that belly in the diaper. And if one of those works for your students, wonderful, keep using it. But personally, they're just not my first choice. They don't make the cut for my top 5. I tend to gravitate towards strategies that are connected to handwriting, articulation, or something students can physically do, because I find that places a little less demand on memory. So instead of remembering an extra story, students are just connecting the letter to how it's formed or how it feels in your mouth and thinking about how it's produced when we say the sound that it represents. So for me, again, this is just my personal opinion. Unless your student is solid on phonemic awareness skills, I think some students have a hard time remembering which object goes with which letter in which order. So we have balls and donuts and doorknobs. They're all round. How am I supposed to remember which stroke goes first, right? But again, that's just my 2 cents. If it works for you, do what works. If you have a student who's been using one of those mnemonics successfully, there's no reason to take it away. The best strategy is the one that helps that particular child become more accurate and ultimately more independent. And one more final thought. I truly believe the best intervention for letter reversals isn't always a clever strategy. It's simply explicit handwriting instruction, teaching children exactly where to start and which direction to move. We're building motor pathways and practicing that letter's path of motion with consistent language cues. So handwriting isn't just about writing letters neatly. It's really building a motor memory for letters that we hope will become automatic. So when children have fewer cognitive resources tied up in remembering letter formation, that frees up their attention for reading, spelling, and writing. And if all of this is of interest to you, you'll find more information about this in mine and Amy Siracusano's book, Developing Proficient Writers, coming out late spring of 2027 with Solution Tree. So stay tuned for that. And if you remember just one thing from today's episode, letter reversals are completely normal, but we also don't have to ignore them. Don't panic, just teach. Teach handwriting explicitly. Use one consistent strategy and give students plenty of opportunities to practice. Get those repetitions in. And remember, every correct repetition is helping that brain become a little more efficient at noticing the proper orientation. Thank you so much for tuning into Literacy in Color. I hope today's episode left you feeling both inspired and equipped with something new to add to your teaching toolkit. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would truly mean so much to me if you'd leave a 5-star review. It helps other educators find the show and join our colorful community. And don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. For more tips, tools, and resources, be sure to check out the links in the show notes at michelleandthecolorfulclassroom.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week. Until then, be colorful and teach colorfully. Do you ever catch yourself saying, English is just crazy? Maybe your students come across a tricky word and you tell them, you just have to memorize that one, or this is the part you have to know by heart. But deep down, you know it's still confusing. Here's the truth. English isn't random. It's a wonderfully complex system, and once you understand how that system works, through sound, structure, and meaning, everything changes. That's what Sarah, Paul, and I teach inside Mastering Morphology. This isn't another curriculum. It's deep teacher knowledge inside a practical, comprehensive course that finally shows you how words really work. No more exceptions, no more gimmicks or patching holes with memorization or phonics alone. It's time to go beyond sound it out and give your students the framework they need to truly understand words. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start teaching with confidence, join us inside Mastering Morphology. Enrollment is open now, so we invite you to click the link in the show notes to get started.